What if the things you avoid are likely to echo in your mind for years to come? Not loudly, not dramatically, not like a monster standing in front of your door, more like a quiet hand on your shoulder, turning you away from certain conversations, certain people, certain risks, certain versions of yourself. You tell yourself you will do it later. You tell yourself the timing is wrong. You tell yourself it is not that important, or that you are being realistic, or that you are just not ready yet. And maybe in that moment, it feels harmless. You avoided discomfort. You protected yourself from embarrassment. You kept your world stable for one more day. But something strange happens when avoidance becomes a habit. The thing you refuse to face does not disappear. It starts making decisions for you. It chooses what you say. It chooses who you approach. It chooses what you never ask for. It chooses which rooms you enter, which opportunities you ignore, which dreams you keep calling not realistic, because admitting the real reason would be too painful. And slowly, without noticing, you stop living according to what you want. You start living according to what you are afraid to feel. Most people think fear controls them only when they are panicking, when their heart is racing, when their hands shake, when they freeze in front of an audience or stand near someone they like, unable to speak, or sit across from a boss with a sentence stuck in their throat. But fear is often more powerful before the moment arrives. It controls the calendar. It controls the delay. It controls the excuses. It builds a whole life around avoiding one uncomfortable second. And this is where fear becomes more than a feeling. It becomes architecture. Think about the last time you wanted to do something simple, but your body treated it like danger. Maybe you wanted to ask someone out. Maybe you wanted to speak in a meeting. Maybe you wanted to upload something you made, ask for more money, say no to someone, or tell the truth instead of swallowing it. From the outside, the action might have looked small. A sentence, a message, a question, a step across a room. But inside your head, it became a trial. You imagined the rejection. You imagined the awkward silence. You imagined people laughing, judging, losing respect, changing how they see you. You played the scene so many times that by the time reality arrived, you had already suffered as if it happened. This is one of the cruelest tricks of anticipation. The pain comes early. Before your crush says anything, you already feel rejected. Before the audience hears you speak, you already feel humiliated. Before the boss answers, you already feel dismissed. Before the world responds, you already feel punished by a version of the world that exists only in your mind. And because that imagined pain feels real, avoiding the action feels like relief. You do not have to hear the no. You do not have to risk the laugh. You do not have to feel your voice tremble. You do not have to find out whether you are good enough, wanted enough, respected enough, strong enough. So avoidance gives you a small reward, peace. But it is a strange kind of peace because it does not make you free. It only makes the fear stronger. The moment passes. Nothing terrible happens. No one rejects you because you never asked. No one judges your work because you never showed it. No one refuses your request because you never made it. And on the surface, it looks like safety. But underneath, your mind learns a lesson. I survived because I avoided it. That lesson is dangerous because the next time the fear arrives with more authority, it says, see, last time you listened to me and nothing went wrong, so listen again. Avoidance begins to look like wisdom. Cowardice begins to dress itself as patience. Self-protection begins to sound like personality. And eventually you may stop saying, I am afraid to do that, and start saying, I am just not that kind of person. This is how fear becomes identity. Not because you were born small, but because you practiced shrinking until it felt natural. There is a simple psychological idea here. When you face a feared situation and survive it, your mind can update. It learns from contact with reality. But when you avoid the situation, reality never gets a chance to correct the prediction. The monster stays the same size because you never walked close enough to see it clearly. That is why the anticipation can become more painful than the event itself. The imagined version has no limits. It can grow in the dark. It can add details, consequences, faces, voices, future disasters. It can turn one conversation into a life sentence. Reality is usually smaller, not always easy, not always successful, but smaller. You ask the question and the person says no. It hurts, but then you are still alive. You speak in front of people, and maybe your voice shakes, but the room does not collapse. You ask for the raise, and maybe your boss refuses, but the world continues. You approach someone, and maybe it is awkward, but then the awkwardness passes through you like weather. And sometimes, the most shocking thing happens. Nothing bad happens at all. The person smiles, the audience listens, the boss considers it, the conversation becomes normal. The thing that looked enormous inside your head becomes almost ordinary in the real world. And after it is over, you feel something that is hard to explain to someone who has never crossed that line. Not just relief, power. Not power over other people, not domination, not ego, power over yourself. The quiet electricity of realizing that your fear was loud but not in charge. The strange pleasure of seeing that you can move while afraid, that your body can shake and still act, that your mind can scream and still be wrong. This feeling is not fake confidence. It is evidence. You faced something, and reality did not destroy you. You took back a piece of land inside yourself that fear had occupied for years. And once you feel that, even once, something changes. You begin to understand that courage is not a personality trait reserved for certain people. It is often the result of collecting proof. Small proof. You did it once, then again, then in a slightly harder situation. Each act becomes a memory your fear has to argue against. But here is where the story becomes more uncomfortable, because fear does not only lie about what might happen, it can also lie about other people. When you are afraid, other people stop looking like human beings. They become judges, threats, audiences, gatekeepers, enemies, gods holding your value in their hands. The crush across the room becomes a tribunal. The crowd becomes a pack of wolves. The boss becomes a king. The stranger becomes a witness waiting to laugh at you. Your mind turns ordinary people into exaggerated figures because it is trying to predict danger, not understand reality. But switch the scene for a moment. A person stands in front of a room, nervous before speaking. You are sitting in the audience. Are you really hoping they fail? Are you studying every mistake with cruelty? Or are you probably just listening, half concerned with your own life? Maybe even quietly hoping they do well because watching someone struggle is uncomfortable for everyone? Someone walks up to talk to you. Maybe they are nervous. Maybe their first sentence is imperfect. Do you instantly reduce them to a joke? Or do you just see a person trying to connect? An employee asks for a raise. If you were the employer, maybe you would not be offended by the question. Maybe you would respect that they know their value. Maybe you would say no because of money, timing, or policy, but still see them differently because they finally spoke. Fear often makes us imagine that everyone else is waiting to punish our humanity. But most people are trapped in their own. They are worried about how they look, what they said, whether they are enough, whether they are being judged. Even the person you are afraid of may be moving through life with their own hidden script of insecurity. This does not mean everyone is kind. Some people will judge, some people will reject you, some people will use your fear against you if they sense it. But even then, there is a difference between pain and imprisonment. A no is information. Avoidance is a sentence you give yourself before the world even speaks. That old phrase, the no you already have, is not just a motivational line, it is almost mathematical. If you do nothing, the result is already closed. You keep the same salary. The conversation never happens. The person never knows. The work remains invisible. The door stays shut. Action may bring rejection, but avoidance guarantees absence. It guarantees that the possible yes never even enters the room. And this is why fear is so expensive. It does not only cost you the things you lose, it costs you the lives that never get tested, the relationships that never begin, the respect you never discover, the version of yourself that never gets evidence that it can exist. This is why facing fear is not always dramatic. Sometimes it looks like sending the message. Sometimes it looks like holding eye contact. Sometimes it looks like letting someone else be brave without pulling them back into the old room. Sometimes it looks like asking the question, then surviving the answer. And when you do, you may discover that the goal was never to become fearless. Fearless is not the point. A person with no fear is not necessarily free. They may simply be reckless, numb, or unaware. Real freedom is more subtle. It is the ability to feel fear without automatically obeying it, to notice the prediction without worshiping it, to hear the alarm and still check whether there is really a fire. Because some fears protect you, some are worth listening to, some doors should stay closed. But others are not doors at all. They are mirrors. They show you the exact place where your life is waiting for you to return. And maybe the next time you feel that old pressure in your chest, before a conversation, before a risk, before one of those small moments that seem simple to everyone else but enormous to you, you can ask a different question. Not, how do I make this fear disappear? But what has this fear already taken from me? Because the thing you avoid does not stay outside your life. It moves in, it arranges the furniture, it chooses the exits, it lowers the ceiling, it teaches you to call the cage normal. And the moment you act, even trembling, even imperfectly, even without knowing the result, something in that cage begins to break. Not because the world became safe, because you became present inside it. The life you want may not be hidden behind talent, luck, confidence, or permission. It may be hidden behind one conversation, one attempt, one honest sentence, one step you keep postponing. And maybe the real question is not whether you are afraid. The real question is how long you are willing to let fear live your life for you. Lucid Order. Question everything.